It was Sterling Hale's birthday. I carried the birthday cake I'd baked from scratch, heading to his office to pick him up after work, hoping to surprise him, but I never saw what was coming. I'd barely stepped into the elevator when someone shoved me right back out. Lena Reed, Sterling's new executive assistant, stood there in a crisp, tailored blazer, her tone cold and strictly business. "Sorry, this is the CEO's private elevator. No one is allowed to ride it without special authorization." All eyes in the lobby turned to me the second she finished speaking. Heat rose to my cheeks. I was about to explain myself when she flipped open her tablet and went on as if reciting a script. "Ms. Jordan, I know you're Mr. Hale's fiancée, but Mr. Hale has no meeting scheduled with you today. Anyone who wishes to see Mr. Hale must book an appointment with me 48 hours in advance for review and scheduling. This is the company's new policy. I hope you understand." I froze, stunned, not wanting to make a scene in front of all the employees and clients milling about. I pulled out my phone to call Sterling directly, but Lena cut me off again, her voice sharp with disapproval. "Additionally, that birthday cake in your hand counts as high-calorie, unvetted outside food. It is also prohibited in the office per policy. You must leave it with the front desk for food safety registration. You can pick it up with your receipt when you leave." I stared at her, completely dumbfounded by her string of demands. Before I could process any of it, she already called over the receptionist in a cold voice. "Front desk negligence, 500 performance, bonus, deduction this month. Be more thorough from now on. Don't let just anyone wander into the building." I'd had enough. "Ms. Reed, isn't this a little over the line?" I snapped. "I'm Sterling Hale's fiancée. Am I not even allowed to come see him at work?" The young receptionist looked close to tears. "But Ms. Reed, everyone here knows Ms. Jordan." I couldn't just turn her away. Lena's face remained impassive, unyielding. "Rules exist for a reason. No one gets special treatment. I'm sure Mr. Hale would approve of us following protocol. My apologies." With that, she pulled out a VIP key card and swiped it against the elevator panel with a faint, smug flourish. Beep. The private elevator doors slid slowly shut. Right before they closed all the way, she lifted her chin, holding my gaze unflinchingly. It felt like a silent declaration of victory, and she'd won. She'd successfully lit a fuse under my anger. I dialed Sterling's personal number immediately, ready to demand what the hell was going on with him and his new assistant. But the line rang again and again. No answer. Furious, I turned to leave only for the call to finally connect. I opened my mouth to say his name, but a cool, familiar female voice beat me to it. "Sorry, Mr. Hale is unavailable right now. I can pass along a message." That was the last straw. My tone turned sharp. "Ms. Reed, tell Mr. Hale his fiancée came to see him and can't even get in the building. Tell him to come down to the front desk himself and sign me in." There was no panic, no defensiveness on the other end, not like I'd expected. A brief pause, then her flat, unbothered reply. "Got it. Is that all? I've logged your request. Oh, and if I may be frank, Ms. Jordan, don't you have anything better to do with your time? Clinging to a man like some love-crazed mess. It's kind of tacky." I stared at my phone as the call went dead. I stood there for a full minute, then laughed bitterly. Nothing better to do. Love-crazed. Clinging to him. Absurd. I'd skipped grades and finished my PhD at 26, headhunted by top-tier biotech research institutes. My schedule was busier than Sterling's, half the time. I had nothing better to do, and calling me love-crazed was even more ridiculous. Sterling had fallen for me at first sight at my debutante gala when I was 18. He'd chased me relentlessly ever since, from Chicago all the way to New York, for 3 whole years before I finally agreed to date him. The second I graduated college, he'd rushed our families into arranging the engagement. Terrified I'd change my mind. If anyone was love-crazed and clingy, it was him, not me. This was all so ridiculous. She was just an assistant. I was sure Sterling would handle it once I told him what happened. But I'd already lost my mood for this visit. Screw it. I turned to walk out of Hale Industries for good, when my phone rang again. It was Sterling. When he heard I was stuck downstairs, he apologized immediately. Baby, I was in a virtual meeting this whole time. I had no idea you were here. I'll send Lena down to get you right now. Don't be mad. Okay, I made a reservation at that restaurant you love. I've had it planned for weeks. Let me make it up to you. I let out a long breath. It was his birthday. After all, I swallowed my irritation and stayed. I waited another long 10 minutes before the private elevator dinged and the door slid open. I looked over coldly as Lena stepped out, poised and polished, the same professional smile on her face. Not a hint of apology or unease. Ms. Jordan, Mr. Hale has given me special permission to bring you up. I didn't bother responding. I walked straight toward the elevator, but right before I stepped inside, she blocked me again. Ms. Jordan, per new company policy, non-employees entering the executive floor must register and be escorted by staff. This is your temporary visitor pass. Please scan the code to check in. At that point, I almost turned around and left, but I wanted to march straight into Sterling's office and complain. Make him give me answers right then and there. I gritted my teeth, scanned the code, signed in, and let Lena escort me down the hall to the CEO's office. We finally reached his door. It was closed. Lena knocked softly. My gaze drifted to the executive assistant desk right outside, and my head went completely blank for a second. On the desk sat a purple tulip-patterned mug. It looked achingly familiar, except for the color. It was identical to the one on my desk at the lab. Sterling had picked it out for me on a business trip to Amsterdam last month. He'd specifically told me it was from a small European designer brand, not sold anywhere in the US, that I'd never run into anyone with the same one. Lena followed my line of sight and said casually, "Nice, right? Mr. Hale has great taste. I helped him pick out souvenirs for you when we were in Amsterdam last month. He saw how much I liked it and got one for me, too. He said the color suits me, brings out my sophistication. Oh, you got the pink one, right? I remember you posted about it on Instagram." I said nothing. My chest felt heavy, sinking straight to my stomach. Sterling never gave random women gifts. Not before me. Not since we'd been together. And he knew better than anyone how much I hated getting the same gift as someone else. Before I could process it, Lena pushed open the office door and stepped inside. Sterling immediately muted his meeting mic and smiled when he saw me. "Hey, baby, 10 more minutes. Wait for me." Lena didn't so much as blink. She walked smoothly over to his desk, topped off his water glass, and rattled off a couple quick work updates with a smile before turning to leave. Right before she walked out, she added over her shoulder, "Sir, your stomach medicine was in my car. I put it in yours already. Don't forget to take it on schedule." It was all so seamless, so professional and polished, like she'd completely forgotten how she'd treated me downstairs, like nothing had happened at all. I forced myself to stay calm, sitting down on the couch to wait for him to finish his meeting. But the longer I sat there, the stranger I felt about Lena. The truth was, we'd met on her first day on the job. Sterling had told her back then that, as his personal assistant, she needed to handle any requests I had promptly. She'd smiled and agreed, and she'd been thorough about it ever since. We rarely saw each other in person, but whenever Sterling and I had plans, she'd send me a list of restaurant options ahead of time to confirm and book. For holidays, she'd put together gift guides and send them to me to pick from. Even when I was on my period, she'd stock my favorite brand of pads in Sterling's car. It all seemed thoughtful at first, but slowly something started to feel off. When I called Sterling, Lena would answer his phone half the time, always telling me he was busy. When I texted him on iMessage, he'd take forever to reply, then say he'd been swamped and hadn't seen it. Once, we were in the same city for work, and I stopped by his hotel to grab dinner. I never even saw him. Lena turned me away, saying he was in a business dinner. After enough times, it started to feel intentional, like Lena was deliberately putting distance between us. Half the time, I could only see Sterling on nights he wasn't traveling or working late. Any other time, reaching him felt impossible. But when I'd mentioned how annoyed I was about it before, Sterling had brushed me off, The company's going through a huge expansion right now. I'm swamped. I don't have time to fixate on tiny stuff like this. Stop overthinking. Once this is over, I'll take you on a nice vacation. I promised. I'd believed him. I'd tested him for 3 whole years before I said yes. I trusted his character completely. I knew how he felt about me. I was sure he'd never cheat. I told myself he was just focused on work. And since I was busy, too, I didn't push it. I figured that's just what a personal assistant did, handle the small stuff. But after everything that just happened, I was sure of it now. Lena had it out for me. To cut my wait short, Sterling wrapped up his meeting in a hurry and came over to coax me. I'm sorry, baby. I know you almost never come pick me up from work, and I made you wait forever. Before I could even complain about what happened downstairs or ask him about the mug, he pulled me into his arms and kissed my forehead. He was leaning in to kiss me on the lips when Lena walked back in, unannounced. I jolted and pulled away from him immediately. Sorry, Mr. Hale. I thought you were still in your meeting. I just wanted to bring in the cake Ms. Jordan brought, sliced and ready. She apologized, but there wasn't a single trace of embarrassment on her face. Sterling didn't even scold her for not knocking. He just grinned. Clara brought me cake. Let me try. I'm starving. I was about to say I'd baked it myself when I looked at the slices on the plate and frowned. This isn't the cake I brought. Mine has blueberries in the layers. This doesn't. I looked at Lena, confused. She just smiled, calm as ever. Ms. Jordan's cake is very high in sugar, not ideal for Mr. Hale's diet. Since it's his birthday, I ordered this low-sugar version ahead of time. Sterling didn't think anything of it. He took a big bite and nodded. This is good. Lena's always so on top of things. He didn't notice how my face had gone cold. I pushed the plate away, my voice tight. Where's my cake? Who gave you permission to swap it out without asking me? How do you even know the one I made isn't low sugar? Is this what being a top executive assistant gets you? Enough authority that even the CEO's fiancé has to dance to your tune. For the first time, Lena's composure cracked. She looked flustered, her voice wavering as she apologized. I'm so sorry, Ms. Jordan. Your cake is still out there. I didn't touch it. Mr. Hale's been working out lately. He shouldn't eat anything unhealthy. She looked meek and mild by the book now, a world away from the arrogant assistant who'd confronted me in the elevator. I was stunned. Before I could say anything else, Sterling frowned and spoke up. Come on, it's just a cake. Lena was looking out for me. She apologized already. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. We can eat yours when we get home. Okay, Lena, don't do it again. Go on out. Close the door behind you. Lena gave a small bow and turned to leave. Still the picture of professional poise. But both Sterling and I saw the faint redness at the corner of her eyes. Sterling sighed and pulled me close to comfort me. All right, she was just looking out for my health. Don't let this ruin your mood. Okay, ruin my mood. It's just a little thing. I stared at him, incredulous. Then I spilled every single slight, every hurt, all in a rush. Every single thing that had happened downstairs. Every slight, every rude comment. Sterling's frown deepened the more I talked. But he didn't say a word. After a long silence, just when I thought he was about to call Lena in and confront her, he sighed. She's just a kid who takes her job too seriously. She's being professional, keeping work and personal life separate. Don't be so petty about it. I stared at him, shocked, and shoved him away. Once, an assistant of his had misspelled my name by one character. He'd fired her on the spot and paid her severance that same day. Now I'm telling him point blank that his assistant is deliberately making things hard for me. And all he can say is that she's being professional. I almost laughed out loud. What about the mug on her desk? You know I hate getting the same gift as other people. Sterling, you used to be so careful about boundaries. He rubbed his temples, looking tired and exasperated, like I was the one being unreasonable. Okay, fine, she's a little rigid, but you saw her, she was just following company policy. I can't punish her for not bending the rules to let you in, can I? As for the mug, Lena's helped you pick out so many gifts you loved. I let her help me choose that one, too. She liked it, and it was only like $5,000 or $6,000. It's not that expensive. It's not a big deal to give one to her, too, is it? I couldn't believe he was taking her side. It was almost funny. Fine. She follows the rules. She keeps things professional. Then tell me this. Why does a regular assistant get free rein to ride your private elevator? Why does she get to swap out a cake her boss's fiancé made with her own two hands without even asking? Why does she get to answer your personal phone, reply to your personal texts, turn his fiancé away when she comes to see him, and call me love-crazed and tacky? Is all that in her job description? 2. This isn't about the money. You gave her the exact same mug you gave me. What does that mean we're the same weight to you? Anyone would think she's the CEO's wife. Not me. Sterling's face darkened, but he didn't look shocked or furious like I'd expected. He took my hand, still using that same cajoling tone he always used when he thought I was upset over nothing. I gave her the elevator card because she's always running around greeting clients. It's just more convenient. As my personal assistant, it's normal for her to answer my calls and texts when I'm swamped. It's really not that deep, is it? Honestly, all I see is Lena being thorough and good at her job. I had no idea you had this much of a problem with her. Hearing him defend her over and over, I felt all the fight drain out of me. At the end of the day, she was the one crossing lines, and he was the one letting her. And somehow, I was the petty, unreasonable one. Baby, have you been extra sensitive lately? Don't be like this. Once this busy stretch is over, I'll take you somewhere nice to relax. Okay, cheer up. He pulled me back into his arms, the same old soothing tone. It was clear he didn't take any of this seriously. I said nothing. I pushed him away, stood up, and walked out. Sterling sighed and followed me. When we passed Lena's desk, I stopped. I took a deep breath and said coldly, "Give me back my cake." Lena froze. She clearly didn't expect me to ask for it back. Her eyes darted toward the stairwell, almost imperceptibly. I followed her gaze and walked over. There, sitting on top of the trash can, still in its unopened box, was the cake I'd spent all day baking, thrown away like garbage. I turned and looked at Sterling, my voice ice cold. "There's your professional, rule-following, perfect assistant, Sterling." I didn't wait for him to explain. I walked straight to the regular elevators and pressed the button. Behind me, I heard Lena's small, pleading voice. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hale. I thought you wouldn't want that much cake. So, I set it aside. I didn't know the cleaning lady would throw it away. I really didn't mean to. I think Ms. Jordan just has the wrong idea about me. You know perfectly well who threw it away." I called back without turning around. "I suggest you go back to training and learn how to show basic respect to your boss's fiancé next time. The one who looked like a joke is your boss." Sterling grabbed my arm, his own temper fraying, but he kept his voice soft, still trying to calm me down. "Lena explained it was a mistake. Stop dragging this out and making a scene. Okay, it's my birthday. Can you just drop it for tonight?" I wrenched my arm away and scoffed. "Please, I'm sure your perfect assistant already has everything planned out for you." I stepped into the elevator. Right before the doors closed, I saw Sterling's face, dark and furious, and Lena standing beside him with that same blank, professional smile, watching me leave. I sat in my car for a long time after, still seething. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I pulled out my phone and texted my dad. "Dad, pull the $5 billion investment from the Hale collaboration. I've made up my mind. Some things are better kept strictly professional." Lena had been right about one thing. Clinging to a man is tacky, but throwing money at a man just as tacky. If Sterling wanted to keep work and personal life separate so bad, fine, we'd do it all the way. My dad didn't text back. A minute later, he called me directly. "Sweetheart, what's with the sudden pullout? Did Sterling upset you?" My dad knew me better than anyone. I went quiet for a second. I didn't want to lie to him, but I didn't want him to worry either. I just told him something felt off, that I needed to think long and hard about whether this was the man I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. The Jordan conglomerate had only agreed to that huge investment because our families were set on this marriage. We were both sole heirs. If we were going to merge our lives eventually, Tying our businesses together deeper had seemed like no big deal. But now, I needed to think. I was too upset to go home. So, I went straight to the research lab to work late. Losing myself in experiments was the only thing that ever made me feel calm and accomplished. By the time I finished, it was almost 11:00 p.m. I walked out of the lab and almost jumped there was someone sitting in my office. Sterling. He was holding my half-smashed cake. Fast asleep. I had no idea how long he'd been waiting there. I checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls and texts. I always put my phone on silent during experiments. I sighed. I'd barely stepped into the room when he woke up. He smiled and pulled me into a hug the second he saw me. Baby, I'm so sorry. I was wrong earlier, but you wouldn't answer my calls or texts. I was so worried. I promise. From now on, no assistant touches my personal messages. Your calls come first. Always. Every part of Hale Industries is open to you, whenever you want. No appointments needed. I didn't say anything, but he held on tighter. Come on. It's my birthday. Can you find it in you to forgive me? Just this once. Looking at him, all sweet and apologetic. I thought about all the years we'd been together before Lena came along. He'd been perfect. And Lena was just an assistant. Transfer her. Fire her. Problem solved. I decided to give him one last chance. It was his birthday after all. I didn't want to ruin it by bringing it up again. We got home around midnight. Sterling went to take a shower. I rolled up my sleeves planning to make him homemade birthday linguine to make up for how the night had gone. I was waiting for the water to boil, half watching a show, when a drop of water from my hand hit my phone screen. It dialed Sterling's number by accident, the one pinned at the top of my contacts. It rang for a few seconds before I realized what I'd done. But before I could hang up, I noticed something wrong. Sterling's phone was right there on the coffee table. I'd been calling it for seconds, but there was no ring, no vibration. I walked over and picked it up. It wasn't on silent, but there was no missed call from me on the screen. Sterling had never hidden his passwords from me. I unlocked it. And that's when I saw it. My number was blocked. I almost laughed. It was so absurd. I opened a message next. Even my texts were set to do not disturb. No wonder he'd been so slow to reply lately. My hands shook a little as I opened his chat with Lena. It was all normal work stuff, for the most part. Just frequent back and forth instructions and updates. Nothing overtly inappropriate. But then I clicked on her Instagram profile and I felt cold all over. Like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. The Instagram Lena showed me was all professional, work-focused, no personal posts, barely anything but company announcements. But the one Sterling saw, it was completely different. She posted selfies from trips, complained about work mistakes, shared little happy moments from her day, posted sad late-night quotes about being lonely. On the profile Sterling saw, she wasn't the cold, sharp assistant. She was a bright, messy, relatable young woman, and Sterling liked her posts. Every so often, he'd leave a like right around the time he'd showed up at my lab. She'd posted a new one, grateful for the dream boss ever. Spent his birthday treating the whole team to dinner. All the little work stresses just melt away. The photo was from that restaurant he'd reserved for us, the one we never went to. The whole executive team was there. Sterling at the head of the table, raising his glass. Oh, so while I was gone, while I was sitting around angry and hurt over how his assistant had treated me, while I was feeling guilty for ruining his birthday, he just gathered his team and replaced me without a second thought. And all the humiliation I'd gone through, it was just a little work stress for her to get over. My chest felt hollow, freezing cold. When had he become like this? I looked around the house. The fresh flowers changed every day, all arranged by a florist Lena had hired. The groceries delivered every morning. The meal plans tailored to our tastes, all set up by Lena working with a nutritionist. It had seemed nice at first, like I didn't have to worry about any of the little things. But now I saw it clearly. Lena had overstepped long ago with Sterling's quiet permission. She'd stepped into all the parts of my life I didn't even know were mine to lose. She'd replaced me in every small, private way. I looked up. Sterling was standing right next to me, his face dark, He stared at the phone in my hand. Clara, that's crossing a line, don't you think? Since when do you go through my phone? I laughed, bitter and sharp. You never kept your passwords for me. Did you think I'd never check? That I'd just trust you blindly? But now that I did, you're mad. My is blocked. My texts are on Do Not Disturb. Don't tell me you had no idea. He grabbed the phone from me, checked, and looked genuinely surprised. I swear I didn't know about this. Wow, your star assistant really is something, isn't she? Gets to rearrange your personal relationships now, too. Real impressive. Sterling's jaw tightened. We already apologized for this. Why can't you just let it go? She probably said it during a meeting when you kept calling. So, it wouldn't distract me. She just forgot to turn it off. I held his gaze. Steady. Fine. Let's say you really didn't notice for all these weeks. What about tonight? Your fiancé storms out, furious and hurt, and you just take our reservation and use it to wine and dine your staff. Who exactly needed comforting here? Have you lost your mind? Sterling slammed the phone down on the table hard enough to make the glass rattle. He raised his voice. Are you seriously going to pick a fight about this tonight? First, the stupid mug, then, the stupid cake. Now, the restaurant you didn't even want to go to. Clara, do you think I have nothing better to do all day? I'm exhausted. I have a million things going on. And I still have to stop everything and coddle you. When are you going to stop acting like a spoiled princess and be reasonable, like other people? I stared right back at him. Other people? You mean Lena? Sterling, can't you see how much you've changed? There's no point in talking about this. We're done. If we can't see eye to eye anymore, this ends here. I turned and walked into the kitchen, turning off the stove. I grabbed my bag off the couch and headed for the door to put my shoes on. Sterling finally snapped out of it. He rushed over and grabbed my arm. Clara, are you insane? You want to break up over this? Over nothing. I didn't cheat. I didn't do anything to hurt you. You're going to throw away years of our relationship over some assistant. I didn't waver. I just asked him one question. Fine. You say she's just some assistant. Fire her, and I'll take it back. Sterling went silent. I'd already pulled the door open. He held on tight, his voice almost desperate. I don't get it. Why are you so fixated on her? She hasn't done anything wrong. I can't just fire people for no reason. Even as CEO, tell me what she did wrong, and she'll fix it. Can't that be enough? I pulled my arm free, calm and final. She crossed every line I have, and you're worse. You let her after that night. Sterling went radio silent, like he was punishing me, like we were just in a fight, and if you waited long enough. I'd come crawling back. We'd never broken up before. I'd always taken relationships seriously. I didn't rush into things, and I didn't walk away easily. Sterling had been my first boyfriend. I'd thought after 3 years of testing him, I knew him. We came from the same world, shared the same values, complemented each other perfectly. I thought he was my perfect match, but the honeymoon phase faded, and before we even made it down the aisle, the cracks started showing. Breaking up with him hadn't been an impulsive choice. It hadn't been a tantrum. I don't know how he saw it, but I meant it. I wasn't going back. Thankfully, my parents were nothing but supportive. They'd respected my choices and my feelings. When I decided not to go into business to take over the family company, when I chose biotech instead, they'd stood by me 100. So this time, even though our families had already intertwined so much of their business and resources for the sake of the marriage, my dad just said, a strong partnership can build an empire, but it's nothing compared to my daughter's happiness. The Jordan family never needed a marriage to stay on top. We don't need you to sacrifice yourself for a better bottom line. My mom said, we worked our whole lives so you could have the freedom to choose whatever life you want. I almost cried. I couldn't find the words to thank them, and I made up my mind. I'd find a proper arranged business marriage match. Relying on a man was risky, but I could have my parents help raise a child to be the Jordan conglomerate heir at my request. The Jordan conglomerate began pulling out of every joint project with Hale Industries. Word spread fast through high society that the Jordans were looking for a new match for their daughter. Blue blood families lined up to court us, and it didn't take long for the news to reach Sterling. At first, he brushed it off. He even seemed to double down, like he was trying to get back at me. He promoted Lena from personal assistant to chief of staff, putting her in charge of the entire executive office. Every part of his life, work schedule, personal errands, everything went through her. At the office, she was second in command. Her Instagram stopped being hidden from me. 2. Her whole lifestyle had upgraded overnight. Business hotels turned into 5-star executive suites. Tennis lessons turned to country, club golf. Her everyday designer brands swapped out for top-tier luxury labels, way more than a chief of staff could ever afford on her salary. Nth. Eline's professional and personal got blurrier by the day. Blurry candids of Sterling in his study at 3:00 a.m. mid-video call, late-night premium truffle bisque sets he'd ordered for her when they worked overtime, a diamond tennis bracelet he'd bought her for her birthday. It was so over the top that everyone assumed he was keeping her as a mistress. Even Sterling's mom called me, frantic, to ask what was going on. When I told her we'd broken up, she was shocked. She said Sterling had never mentioned it. Not once. I turned down her attempts to patch things up and posted on Instagram that I was single again. By then, most of our business ties were already severed. The post blew up. Everyone wanted to gossip. And even more men came out of the woodwork to pursue me. When I was still Sterling's fiancé, people had held back, even with the rumors. Now that it was official, every old money heir in the city made their move. Wealthy, only child, brilliant, successful, barely any relationship history. The second I left Sterling, I became the most sought-after match on the market. Sterling said nothing. No confirmation of the breakup. No denial. I had no idea what he was thinking. If he wouldn't say anything, I'd take it as agreement. It wasn't until a charity gala a few days later that I found out what he'd really been planning. The gala was hosted by Sterling's mother. Every prominent family in the city was there. I almost didn't go, but there was a piece up for auction that my mom had donated years ago to support Diane Hale's charity. Since the wedding was off, I wanted to bid on it and bring it home. The second I walked in, I could feel everyone staring. I had no idea why until I looked up and locked eyes with him. Sterling was standing across the room, watching me with that smug, amused look on his face. And right next to him, Lena. The worst part, Lena was wearing the exact same evening gown I had on. That's why everyone was staring. I'd had the dress custom made 2 months prior. Sterling had even helped me pick the design. Lena had been the one to receive the final delivery. Too childish, petty, ridiculous. I rolled my eyes and turned to leave, but they walked right over to me before I could. Ms. Jordan, I'm so sorry. It seems we have the same taste. Great minds think alike, I guess. Lena smiled, sweet as poison. I scoffed. Please, I don't do hand-me-down trash. Sterling's face darkened, but Lena spoke first, all wide-eyed innocence. Ms. Jordan, you misunderstand. I'm just here as Mr. Hale's +1 for work. It's part of my job, that's all. Sterling finally spoke, his tone cold and condescending. Clara, had enough of your little tantrum yet. Tonight's important. If you hadn't pushed your dad to pull funding from half our projects and posted that stupid breakup announcement, I wouldn't have needed a date. This is your wake-up call. Apologize. Stop acting out and we can call this whole stupid fight off. I stared at him, bewildered, about to snap back when Lena cut in again, all self-righteous. Look, Ms. Jordan, I know this isn't my place, but girls like you who grow up spoiled and get everything handed to them, you don't get what it's like to be a corporate drone working your way up. You've lived in a bubble your whole life. You don't know how brutal the business world is. Mr. Hale is under so much pressure. Can't you cut him some slack? He can't answer your every call in the middle of 100 decisions a day. Just be the pretty wife at home and let him handle the business. It's not like you understand it anyway. How long do you think the Jordan conglomerate will last without him once you're gone? She finished her little speech, and Sterling said nothing. He just stood there, letting her say it, like he agreed with every word. The crowd around us murmured, eating it up. Sterling, clearly pleased with himself, softened his tone like he was being generous. Clara, I don't want to make this ugly, but you need to grow up. Go back to your lab and focus on your science. Stop causing scenes. Do that and things can go back to how they were. I promise. I didn't waste another word. I reared back and slapped him across the face. Hard. I turned to leave, not waiting for his reaction. As I passed Lena, I said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Did no one ever tell you this dress line is my brand? I founded it when I was 18. You think you're so clever, like everyone else is an idiot. You're just a vapid little airhead. The whole room's laughing at you, and you don't even know it." Lena's face crumpled. She held onto Sterling's arm, tears welling in her eyes. "Clara, how dare you hit him and talk to me like that? You think you're special just because you were born rich. You'd be nothing without your family name." Before I could reply, a low, dry voice cut through the room. "Being born well is a skill. My fiancé hit the jackpot. If you're so upset about it, go reincarnate and try again." A second later, a custom-tailored suit jacket was draped over my shoulders, covering most of the matching gown. I smelled crisp, cold cedar, and heard the crowd gasp. I turned. It was Holden Ashford, the man my family had arranged for me to marry. He was from Newport, head of the legendary Ashford Group. Their portfolio spanned real estate, shipping, tech worth far more than the Hales could ever dream of. They weren't even in the same league. He was wealthier than the Jordans, too. We'd all been shocked when his family had reached out to ask for my hand. Holden was notoriously reclusive, rarely attended events, ruthless in business, and had never once been linked to anyone romantically. By every metric, he was the perfect arranged marriage match. He'd flown to Los Angeles once, met me for coffee, and we'd agreed to the engagement. But I'd thought he hated these kinds of public events. And here he was, draping his jacket over me in front of everyone, marking his territory loud and clear. The whole room went quiet, stunned. Holden didn't pull his hand away. He rested it lightly on my waist, pulling me closer. "Sorry I'm late, darling." My cheeks warmed. I looked down. Holden acted like this was the most natural thing in the world. Sterling's face went deathly pale. The red handprint on his cheek stood out bright. He stared at Holden's hand on my waist like he could burn a hole through it. He reached for me, his voice tight. "Mr. Ashford, this is a mistake. Clara is my fiancée. Since when is she yours?" Holden smiled, faint and sharp. "Oh, is that so? Mr. Hale, am I supposed to mistake my own fiancée for someone else? Like you mistake basic decency for good management?" Sterling sputtered, completely thrown. "Mr. Ashford," Lena piped up, trying to sound calm and reasonable. "You don't understand. Ms. Jordan and Mr. Hale are just having a fight. She's just using you to make him jealous. Don't let her manipulate you." "I understand perfectly." Holden cut her off, his voice even, but cold enough to make the room go still. "Clara told me the engagement was over, so I rushed here to claim my place. Even if I am the second choice, I'd take that spot gladly." Silence. Dead silence. People's mouths hung open. Someone spilled their champagne and didn't notice. Someone held up their phone, frozen mid-photo. Holden Ashford had not only confirmed the Jordan Ashford engagement out loud, admitted he was the backup option. That was unheard of. It meant he was head over heels for Clara Jordan. Even Diane Hale, the host of the gala, stood off to the side, her face like thunder. Losing the Jordan alliance was bad enough for her family's reputation, but watching them turn around and align with the Ashfords, it was a public humiliation. Holden led me out of the gala. Sterling stood there frozen, gray-faced, like he couldn't process what had just happened. News of the Ashford-Jordan engagement spread like wildfire across the city. 3 months later, Sterling finally woke up. He'd thought we were just in a fight, a petty Cold War. He hadn't realized he'd lost more than a fiancé. He'd lost the entire Jordan conglomerate's funding for his expansion plans. Before, with Jordan's endless cash flow backing him, Sterling had gotten ambitious. He'd launched half a dozen massive projects all at once. He never thought there was any real risk. After all, I didn't care about running the family business. Sooner or later, both companies would be his to run. 2 families merged into one, and he'd be the one calling all the shots. But then the Jordans pulled out. Not just one project, all of them. Over $5 billion in funding vanished overnight. 3 of Hale Industries' core real estate projects ground to a halt at the same time. Banks got wind of it and started calling Ian loans. Suppliers showed up at headquarters demanding payment. Employees didn't get their paychecks. The stock price tanked. He called me frantically, day and night, from dozens of different numbers. I never answered a single one. He begged my dad, begged every family friend, every connection he had. He swallowed every last bit of his pride, groveling for just 5 minutes of my time. He even waited outside my lab building all night, standing in the cold autumn wind. When I walked out the next morning, there he was, leaning against his car, looking like hell. His suit was wrinkled, his jaw covered in stubble, his eyes bloodshot. The man who'd stood at that gala 3 months ago, telling me I needed to grow up. He looked like a stray dog someone had left out in the rain. Clara. His voice was rough, barely audible. I'm sorry. Let's go back to how things were. Please. Hale Industries can't collapse. My dad's in the ICU. I fired Lena. I got rid of her. I don't care about anything else. Just come back. I stood on the steps above him, looking down. You don't want me back. Sterling. My voice was calm. You just want to save your company. Hale Industries wouldn't have collapsed if you hadn't gotten greedy. You thought the Jordan conglomerate was already yours. You thought I'd never leave. So you got cocky. I'd figured it out. After everything with Lena got worse and worse, Sterling had let her act out on purpose. He'd wanted to push me into backing down. Maybe after years of chasing me, he'd wanted to set the rules before we got married, prove who was really in charge, that I could throw my little fits, but only if he allowed it. He'd been wrong. I might not care about running the family business, but the Jordans didn't raise dependent trophy wives. I could pick something up, and I could walk away, too. I only said one more thing to him. I'm just doing what you told me to, keeping work and personal life separate. Isn't that what you wanted? Your assistant was right about one thing. Being love-crazed and clinging to someone is tacky. Don't come looking for me again. I turned and got in the car. Right before the window rolled up, I saw him drop to his knees on the sidewalk. His face was gray, disbelieving, all that old swagger and sharp edge gone. He kept muttering to himself, "No, that's not right. It's just a fight. You love me. You can't really leave." The Maybach pulled away smoothly. Holden was sitting next to me, flipping through a stack of documents, not looking up. "Taken care of. Ma'am, what do you want for dinner?" "Your call." He looked up then, glanced at me, and smiled faintly. Outside the window, Sterling's figure got smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror until it vanished into the traffic. Not long after, Hale Industries declared bankruptcy. I didn't hear much about Sterling after that. As for Lena, she was blacklisted across the entire industry. I heard she moved back to her hometown. Later, Holden and I went on our honeymoon to a private island in the Pacific. One day, I got curious and asked him why he'd pursued me, why he'd asked for my hand out of nowhere. He looked at me, his gaze deep and steady. "For a long time. I saw you a long time ago. You just never noticed. I was invited to give a speech at your university. I walked past the lab and you were there, focused on your experiment. I don't know why, but my heart skipped a beat. When my family told me about the Jordan's daughter, I saw your photo and knew I should thank Sterling. Honestly, if he hadn't pushed you away himself, I never would have gotten the chance to marry someone like you." I froze, then smiled, soft and relieved. It's okay to get it wrong sometimes. Sometimes you have to walk away from the wrong person to find the right one. I'm just glad I walked away when I did.